because of the emergence of the ISL, there was a lot of commercial value, and fans who were actually big fans of, like, say, East Bengal or a Mohun Bagan, were really I League fans were also driven by what the ISL was doing. So, like, when you compare it to cricket, cricket has been a part of the culture. They say that cricket is a religion which is followed, you know, very holistically, you will say, in many parts of India. Even in the Northeast, where football is prevalent, even there, any family would be playing, like, kids will be playing gully cricket, basic. So obviously it all happens when you have icons in a particular sport. And for many of us, we all know that, Sachin Tendulkar has been our uh, generational inspiration for our generation, I would say. And even for the youth who plays cricket, they all worship Sachin. We had Bhaichung Bhutia, I am Vijayan in football, that way, who people didn't know much about, until he actually at the world stage he performed really well. And after that we saw how Sunil Chetri has inspired so many people. So in terms of, following for a sport, it's all about, building a proper culture when it comes to people religiously following a sport.
Hey, viewers and listeners, welcome to the Right Now show. Thanks a lot for supporting us all this while, and we are sure that you would enjoy this episode as much as possible, like how we would enjoy it. It's a great learning experience, and this is something that I have not known, the topic that we're going to discuss today, and I'm sure it will be a very insightful conversation. But without any further ado, we would give it up to Abhinav to introduce the very special guest that we have today.
Thanks, Abhinandan. So today I have one of my good friends, I would say, not a guest as such. So I hope we can have like a lot of podcasts in the future also. So I'm saying from that perspective. Today we have Ganesan amongst us, who was my college junior, 1 year junior, and also he was my bandmate. We used to play trumpet together. So those were like super fun days, almost like 6, 7 years back. So Ganesan was a guy who was super enthusiastic in sports, an amazing tennis player. He beat me in tennis, I remember, in my second PG in the semi-finals. He's a really good player, and not just tennis but also football. He was a forward player, I remember, and his passion for sports and especially football. I remember he used to follow fantasy leagues and EPL, etc. So even now, I think so. His passion for football took him into sports marketing, sports management, etc. And 5 years down the line, he's still working for Indian football, for sports in India. We are really looking forward to this episode of the Right Now show with Ganesan. So to give a quick intro of what Ganesan is doing right now, he's looking at the education side of sports, uh, and he is also looking at the event side of sports. So he's also into creating content and administration side of sports in India, especially football. I would invite Ganesan to take it away and tell us your story, like how it all started and how you got inspired to get into all this.
So first of all, thank you both Abhinandan and Abhinav for having me on your show. It has been an honor for me, having followed your episodes previously. And yeah, talking about my journey so far, like my passion, that is sports. It has been something which has always, to be honest, driven me since childhood, because even before I joined the institute and happened to be very close to join in higher secondary school, that is in 11th, but I didn't get it. I was always, you know out of my house, always playing sports, and always was driven by the adrenaline rush which a person experiences when it comes to going outdoors and being with your friends, socializing. And sports was something which taught me a lot of values in terms of, because I used to go for tennis training. I trained for 6 years almost, and that had a sense of discipline in me. And even though it's an individual sport requires many uh, good things which you can take away, because the mental aspect is very crucial when you're playing as an individual athlete. So I think from that point of view, sports was always driving me, and I was always inquisitive to know new things about how there are other aspects of sports. Because once I reached my 11th, I was only a state level. I had gone up to only state level in tennis, and for my school, I had played the clusters, CBSE clusters in football. So this were the main two things which I had participated in, and I knew that I had to make a uh, you know judge like a decision proper decision as to what would be my next step. Because 11th, 12th, and after that, you are like a bit in that decision making stage, and even parents are behind you. They are very concerned that way. So I had a choice to make, and definitely the institute gave me a lot of exposure for sports that way. So I knew that even though I'm doing a bachelor's, and my formal education is in a place where I can get a lot of opportunities, I always wanted to pursue a career in sports, because that would actually help me to live my passion. And that is something which always drove me. And considering these big major sporting events, if you talk about Olympics or even the World Cup in football, these all require a lot of manpower for the people who are organizing it to create a spectacle. It's all about the experience which viewers take away with them, if even if they're viewing it on television, right? So that was something which was very inspiring for me, how they are able to manage such mega events with such a because they prepare for years together to put up a show of 30 days as the biggest sporting event, so called. So that was something which really drove me. And after that, I thought, okay, let me finish my formal education, and then let's see how things progress. So even after my MBA, I knew that definitely in India the sports industry is not so professional and not so settled in terms of like an IT or any other industry. So I wanted to enter the industry when it is at its nascent stage. Like, there are not many people who are actually pursuing sports management as an option. So I was thinking, okay, let me give my proficiency test in English, so that I can get a good score in IELTS. So I gave that soon after my MBA, and then I was just hoping to go to Europe to actually pursue higher education, because in India the options were there, but I was always under a mindset that time that definitely if I go abroad, then it will give me a good exposure because of the culture for sports, and it will give me the given practical experience in terms of internships, or I might establish good connections. So I decided to go to the UK, and there I pursued my masters from Portsmouth. So that was a very eventful 1 year and couple of months, because I got a chance to work with a club as an intern, and I was also involved with a lot of other activities, voluntary activities in helping young children. I was coaching as well. So I did my coaching certification from the Football Association over there. So that was the starting point for me to keep learning and challenge myself as much as I can to explore new opportunities. And after that, the options in Europe are actually not so much for Asians. But even though that was the case, I thought, okay, let me come back to India and see how I can contribute in this developing industry. So I was like, okay, I'll explore options. And the company which I'm working for is the company where I'm still working. Like, I joined soon after I came back from UK. So it's been almost 2.5 years now. And along the way, I had different experiences. Uh, like in terms of giving coaching. I was, because I had done my FA qualification, so I was involved with summer camp coaching for kids under 10s, under 12s, and also I was involved with marketing of the school projects, because there is a physical literacy program where we inculcate physical education among students when they are in their schooling years. So I was part of designing the curriculum, and then actually having associations with schools in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So I was doing the marketing, and now it's a complete deviation, like in terms of formal education for sports. So it's been a really different experience, because every year I have had to do different things, a lot of traveling also during this period, so that made it quite fun. And I met a lot of new people in terms of school principals, directors of institutions, and a lot of interesting personalities, even some players as well.
That's like a amazing roller coaster kind of journey. So one question that comes to my mind is, like you pursued your formal education in Portsmouth, in UK. So what drove you to come back to India and work in India for Indian football? I mean, there are like, I'm pretty sure the opportunities in UK are much amazing, and because the football scene is huge, because EPL is like almost synonymous to football, right? So what actually kind of drove you to come back to India? Was it patriotism or uh, I don't know? Tell us.
The basic thing was that I didn't have any other, like, basic thing was I was not having any option, because my visa was expiring and I didn't land a job. And definitely, like, there was only 2 months for my visa to expire, and my sister was getting married in December, like before the visa expired. So I had to come back and be with my family for the wedding. So I had to basically do a different type of event management, so called uh, wedding management and stuff. So I was it was quite hectic when I came back. I had to arrange a lot of things for my sister. So after that, soon after that, I got the job. So my main motivation was like, definitely, I can't stay idle. So obviously India is a market where, being a national, I'll definitely have 95% chances of landing a good job, especially given the fact that I have a decent qualification, you can say, in terms of an MBA and then a double masters with a masters in sports. So I thought, okay, given that along with my football background, probably I have a good chance. And actually, I forgot to mention, soon after I passed out from MBA from our institute, like, I did a job for 1 year in Mumbai. So I was working for a sports management company. I was part of the brand development and venue management for Arsenal soccer schools. So Arsenal had created their own brand in India, and along with them, the NBA had also come. The NBA basketball schools and Prakash Padukone badminton schools. So I was actually looking after the training centers in Mumbai. So they have a lot of these cities, tier 1 cities, which are now actually doing well in terms of La Liga has come in now. So basically, La Liga has their own brand, which is now being established in India. So I was like, okay, at least for a start, this is a good learning experience. And after a year, I just told them I have to pursue my higher education. So I just went there, and yeah, it was a good thing. Like, I always wanted to see how Indian football can progress, because it's still not so formal, and a lot of players are actually very talented. If you look at India's population, 1.3 billion, out of that there are only 4 to 5 football pockets, so called, like Goa, then Kerala, Kolkata. These are the primary hubs for football. In other places, there is no real culture. So, in terms of conducting regional leagues, conducting workshops for coaches, or even having some specific, you know, like exposure for parents to actually tell them that if your kid is talented, he can definitely do something, go to a certain level, and even if he's not becoming a player, he can work in the other aspects. Like for example, he can do his coaching badges from the All India Football Federation, or he can take up something in terms of scouting or football analysis. So in some way, he's contributing to the overall industry, right, by being in this line. So my main objective was to try to inspire people who want to take up this as a career, and along the way learn and keep growing. So my motto is very basic that way, simple in terms of if I find good players, I need to have the knowledge of scouting them also. So I did my scouting certifications also along the way, so that whenever I go to an academy, I can find good talent. And I always had this in my dream that I want to explore the entire part of India, all pockets, and see how much talent can come out of it. So this was something which is there in the back of my mind for many years, and I hope to actually experience it, because I have only seen half of India, the western side and the southern side to some extent. I've never been to the northeast or even the east. So I want to explore and see how much I can, help young players and see how things can go.
Amazing. I think we've just been kind of we've been very few minutes into this conversation, and I think there's just a lot of questions that are going through my head. Right. First of all, we all have been through the education system, right? And we know that, okay, look, what we learn is very different from what is the experience that we have in our jobs, right? The question that I would like to ask you is, you've done your masters in sports, right? how how relevant is that masters or the education of sport in the actual experience of the field, right? And then obviously I've seen a movie, and I think everyone has seen a movie of Moneyball. They call Moneyball, right? And in that movie, there's a huge, I would like to say, huge importance that is given to the education aspect, the statistical aspect of it, and then the team really is successful because of that dude, the guy who comes in from one of the Ivy League colleges, right? Is it really that? And I think where I'm coming from is, are these two questions related? Because one is the education aspect and it being relevant in the actual on ground scenario, and second, obviously, connecting to the Moneyball question, right? Is that's what is shown, is what is shown, is that real in the actual field sense?
It's a very interesting question. So the first part of it, the education aspect, I feel definitely, because the basic modules what you undergo or experience during a master's in sports management is all about what you are experiencing in the industry. So every event, for example, has a marketing domain, has a sponsorship domain, then it has the actual operations which go with it, and sports being a physical event where you have to have a capacity stadium, even the logistics and the venue management, these things are really crucial, which is again unique to sports, I would say. It's not you won't study this if you're landing an IT job for yourself, like venue management or any other thing, right? So I feel there are some specific things which you learn additionally if you want to enter this industry. And apart from that, the way you market a brand in sports industry is completely different, rather than marketing, let's say, an Apple iPhone. Because at the end of the day, sports is all about creating that good experience for the audience, for global fans. And if you are able to market a big brand in a specific way, then it has to be going on with a very big strategy, a long term strategy which you are building in, and you are able to market it to the right audience. So it's a very dynamic industry, first of all. So you need to actually understand the subtle aspects of how marketing happens or how a sponsorship happens. So usually a lot of these events won't involve lot of sponsors, or many might not come on board also. Just looking at how an event is being conducted in sports, looking at the value which it gives to the audience, some brands might just refuse to be a part of it. So the way you market your brand and these things are quite different, I would say. That's what I've experienced after working for these many years in this, up to 5 years now. So uh, creating that noise and creating that vibe for uh, engaging fans is very important in when it comes to sports. So otherwise you will not be able to set yourself in the industry. And coming to the Moneyball thing, I think, yeah, what I don't completely remember the entire plot, but if he has done, like you said, Ivy, from there he did his education and all, right? So I think looking at that, and he practically applies some concepts of it. So in my case, I'll just give my example that what I studied in my masters over there, it is from a global perspective. So they don't know the Indian scenario of sports much. Only when I share my experience of what is happening in terms of infrastructure not there for young kids to train, or in terms of events not at a large level, they come to know the realities. And main thing is, like, no one looks at a career that way in sports in India. So they don't have a specific, uh, they don't give a formal education considering the Indian audience specifically. It's a holistic, general perspective of how the industry is and how it will progress in the future. Having seen so many brands, how the International Olympic Committee is also taking many initiatives. That way they give a general understanding of different domains. But wherever you are, when you pass out, you have to apply certain aspects of it. And definitely for me, marketing has been my main forte. Like, I have been in that, you can say, pretty much throughout, right since I joined. So it's quite interesting actually, and we never know. Now with the upcoming esports also, there are a lot of brands, sports tech especially, who are coming to India. There are investors from America as well, who are actually looking at the esports as a very big market. There is a competition which happens in India, and definitely there will be commercial growth of sports. And we have seen that Pro Kabaddi League, the Volleyball League, all these leagues have also been getting good amount of viewership. And Hotstar, as we all know, they have been telecasting these things. So I think the awareness aspect of sports, once it increases in India, again we'll see many more professionals. So it's all about creating that vibe or that noise for that industry. That's what I feel.
So, I have a question, Ganeshan. So, the thing is, India is a very cricket dominant country. Like, cricket is a religion here. So, like, luckily, football has been starting to, like, rise up with ISL, especially. So, obviously, like, to reach a level of EPL, it'll take India like a lot of years. So, where do you see the gap actually that India is facing right now in terms of why is football not able to make it to the top, and uh, what is cricket doing that football is not able to do yet?
Uh, yeah, this has been a very prominent question for people who are just entering the industry, especially if you're working in football. So, having said that, I feel that football, because of the emergence of the ISL, there was a lot of commercial value, and fans who were actually big fans of, like, say, East Bengal or a Mohun Bagan, were really, I League fans were also driven by what the ISL was doing. So, like, when you compare it to cricket has been a part of the culture. They say that cricket is a religion which is followed, very holistically, you will say, in many parts of India. Even in the Northeast, where football is prevalent, even there, any family would be playing, like, kids would be playing gully cricket, basic. So obviously it all happens when you have icons in a particular sport. And for many of us, we all know that Sachin Tendulkar has been our generational inspiration for our generation, I would say, and even for the youth who plays cricket, they all worship Sachin. We had Bhaichung Bhutia, I am Vijayan in football that way, who people didn't know much about until he actually at the world stage he performed really well, and after that we saw how Sunil Chetri has inspired so many people. So in terms of following for a sport, it's all about building a proper culture when it comes to people religiously following a sport. So that itself has not happened in the households, and even though we know that the commercial value has grown for likes of ISL, there have been a lot of new clubs coming into the ISL as well now. So I think it will only grow from here. There are still lot of loopholes which are there in terms of again a lot of issues between the AIFF and the clubs in terms of not getting much revenue. There is no broadcasting revenue which is shared to the clubs. So again, they are not able to sustain in the market in terms of recruiting foreign players or bringing big coaches also to India. That itself is been a problem, and again, like if we compare two sports, like cricket is completely different. As I mentioned, it's not the same treatment which you would say given to football, and I would say that definitely like ISL has created that ripple effect. A lot of professionals have stepped in who want to do well, but again it depends on how people view it. Some people might say I League was there, National Football League, which was happening, started in 2007, and since then there have been a good number of teams which came in, and they were performing, but it was never considered by the holistic Indian population as the number one league, so called, like the IPL. So the aspect of entertainment is also there in cricket, which we all can't avoid. It doesn't happen the same way in football. It's now sports has become a entertainment driven industry. The way if you see American sports, so it has been completely about creating that experience in a stadium with they have this halftime. Even in NBA they have those cheerleaders and all coming. All those things are there. It creates a big vibe among people, and again in football people don't get that spectacle until and unless there are no more number of goals, or again if the match is quite interesting, it goes till the golden goal or something. It's not so interesting as cricket because of again the entertainment and the number of brands involved. So actually in football there are not many brands also again pumping in the money who want to invest, because of everything is taken over by the Reliance now for the ISL. So the FSDL, that's the company which is tied up with AIFF for the ISL. So they have not entertained many other brands to actually come in apart from the broadcasting partners and the other partners who would actually help in promoting a league. Even though ISL is the fourth most watched league in the world, still we see that the culture for football is still missing in many parts, and it again drive, like I would say around 75% of the Indian population is still driven by cricket. I would say that because again that has been a big part of their upbringing, and again the 83 World Cup was a big factor in that, and India winning the 2007 and then 2011 World Cup. There are achievements which India can be proud of. So the same thing, Indian football, they haven't participated in a FIFA World Cup, the actual event, for I don't know how many years. They last participated in what? There was a 1948 World Cup for which they were supposed to participate, but they were playing bare feet. So they didn't have shoes that time, so they got disqualified. And After that, India had a golden generation between 1951 to 1964, where they got Asian Games gold medal, and that time there were good players with a good coach. So after that, it has been all about East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, and this rivalry, and the professionalism or more brands have not come into football the way it has come in cricket. So I think uh, we just got a few major achievements at the global level compared to cricket. Cricket has, again, the viewership is driven by what they see in terms of results. So Indian cricket has got the results, and it has reached the number one also in ranking wise. So if you see, football has 206 countries playing the sport which are registered under FIFA. So out of that, India is somewhere in the 105th or 108th rank. I don't know the exact rank, but that shows that football has a really long way to go. Only if it reaches the top 50, I'll be like, okay, some progress is there, and still people will be viewing it the way they should view cricket.
So I was saying that I think this is all almost like a like a vicious spider web kind of a thing where like all these factors are like interdependent on each other. Like first thing you said is like there are no icons like Sachin Tendulkar. Yeah, definitely Sunil Chetri and all are there, but they haven't been able to perform in the top world stage because India hasn't gone. So it's not even their fault. So that is one thing, and then like people are not pumping in money because they know that there is not much returns, and then people do not want to pump in money because not many people are watching it also, and people are not even watching it much also because it's a little bit more technical game than uh, cricket. Although like you said, like there are few high points in football, like when goal goes or goes golden goal, things like that, or penalty. So the high point in cricket comes almost, the opportunity for high point is in every ball. Like if you take T20, it's like 120 times in an innings. And so yeah, I think there are like, it's like hundreds and thousands of factors. And I still feel that, it will take a lot of time. Like EPL took 100, how many, 100 years?
Yeah, so that again, I had started off with the culture aspect, and England is known for a big culture of many sports, and football was very prevalent since the 18th century. You can go very much back in history. So since that time till now, Premier League actually came in 1992 officially, and after that. There have been people, European brands, and again the broadcasting was so powerful, and that was a very big era for English football, and the way that marketed the league in Southeast Asia and even other parts of the world was huge, because they had all the right resources even in Asia to promote the league, and they knew that this is an untapped market where no other league is actually willing to explore, and uh, they had the viewership by storm. Talking about ESPN and all these channels where we used to watch live football, it was all about how they created that experience. And again, English football is a very fast game. If you watch Premier League games, it is very intense. It is always highly, like, not so tactical, but in terms of the adrenaline rush which the players have, that you would experience even if you are watching it, because the fights and the brawls which happen among fans, it is more of a culture as cricket is for India over there. So football fans, it's much more like hooliganism. A lot of hooliganism takes place, so it's all about having that type of atmosphere. And Indian fans always like to be in a place where there is lot of uh, sense of entertainment and those things. And football was one such sport, especially the EPL, which was driving teams crazy, and there were some good teams. Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea used to play really good football apart from
Liverpool
Barcelona.
also.
Who?
Liverpool also, bro.
Yeah, Liverpool, the big four so called. So they had a really good, dominant era in club football level. So I think that played a big
Yeah.
role for them to capture the Asian market in terms of viewership and stuff. So it's there.
Yeah,
True.
I think you also covered, right, that you've studied there obviously, and then you've worked across different places, right? If you could share with the viewers maybe like two three like crazy experiences that you had on the way, right? Some experience which blew your mind also, and which kind of said, okay, look, this is something different, this is something I didn't expect.
Hey, by the way, you're a gunner, right?
Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan. Yeah. So
Better luck next time. Like every season, you can say that to them. Okay, sorry, no offense.
it's always a question of patience when you are supporting Arsenal. You need to
So even
really.
even Yogesh, you know Yogesh, right? One of our mutual friends. He's also like a huge Arsenal fan, and we take his case like crazy. And it's okay, like because like there was this joke that like Arsenal plays really good till Christmas. They're like on top, and after Christmas holidays or something, and suddenly they're down and stuff like that. Anyway, leave that. Yeah. So yeah, you can go ahead and answer Abhinandan's question. I don't know why I went there.
So talking about my experiences, first of all, like when I was there in UK, I experienced the fan culture, which was actually insane in terms of, following clubs religiously. People used to get frustrated if they're not getting a season ticket. That used to be like a big sin, or I don't know, they used to feel so dejected if, they're not getting that limited number of season tickets per season to follow their club. And I was actually working in a football club. I was doing the catering work. I was actually serving alcohol and stuff in a stadium for the fans. So the passion among them to actually, you know out of 24 hours, I don't know, like maybe even the 60 and 70-year-old people are so passionate. They come along with their grandchildren, and they always, their best pastime is to watch entertaining football at the weekends. So I got the chance to interact with a lot of fans, and actually I was quite surprised by the way they actually follow football, because they were not only like admiring what they watched, but it was all part of the history of football and upbringing. And the way they used to cheer, and I've even seen fights happening, because I was fortunate to go to the Emirates Stadium. So
Oh,
this was
nice.
just after the North London derby. Arsenal versus Tottenham had just taken place. I didn't get a ticket for the match, but I experienced the fight which took place after the match. So I was just coming out of this tube from near the stadium. So from the tube station, I just went towards the stadium, and I was not getting even space. Even there were some brawls happening. There were police people who were like trying to create a peaceful environment, but there were a lot of fights, and I was actually fortunate. I didn't get injured there, but the passion which they support, and the chants and everything, it's really crazy. So I saw a lot of these fans actually, you know they have given their heart and soul, their blood, sweat, everything. They say in their own words that uh, if, for example, Arsenal was not there in their life, they will feel like their life is incomplete. That is the sense of belongingness they have. And fans drive clubs. Without fans, we all know, it can be in any sport, any big team, like say LA Lakers in basketball, just as an example. Even if you see that the fans, if they're not following a club, that is huge chunk of the revenue which a club loses or a team loses for conducting match day experiences. So the passion was something which drove me. It was really surprising. How can it be such a big part of their life? I was always surprised by that. And coming back to India, the experiences which I had were really at the grassroots level, not at the professional team level. So over there, I was actually like surprised by the way parents used to speak with me in many occasions, because I used to take care of the training centers in Mumbai when I was working. So lot of parents would used to actually question the coaching, and try to raise objections. Even when they see their kid playing so well, they would raise objections against the training sessions and what is the coach doing. Because I used to be like the middleman. I used to handle queries of parents, and then again the coach will give his feedback about the player. So that was a very good learning experience for me, because I got to deal with two sets of people with a completely different thought process. Parents are people who would like to always be behind their kid, want them to do well, but the actual guide is the coach, who knows the technical aspects, tactical aspects, and he's also looking to improve the player. So both are actually trying to raise the game of the player, but in a different approach. One is only giving moral support, that is the parent, but the coach is the person who is actually driving him to perform day in and day out. So that was a very interesting experience. I even saw like uh, parents of two different kids, they were quarreling with each other in a tournament. I have seen stuff like that. It is not good to watch, because obviously both the players are in the same team, but again, those kind of experiences were also there. So it's always you see the happy sides when you see fans enjoying, but again, at the grassroots level in India especially, you see parents not always behaving the way they should actually be morally supporting them. But I have seen a lot of ugly experiences also. So
Looks like you've seen a lot of fights too.
yeah, it has been crazy experience seeing parents and coaches also. Sometimes I've seen a lot of coaches who are not holding back when they're angry. They're actually giving it out on the players. So it's uh, not expected, and as part of their etiquettes, they should be behaving in a proper way. So yeah, it's sometimes the natural instinct of a coach doesn't allow them to hold back, when they expect something from a player, and after repeatedly trying to tell him to perform in a certain way, if he doesn't do, then it's you know
Whack.
yeah, so
So, did you meet any of your like idols or any footballers?
yeah, so like over there in UK, I didn't happen to meet anyone. I just I was part of a few events where these players had come. Like for example, in Mumbai, I was part of a conference which the Premier League had conducted. So the Premier League officials had come to Mumbai, and uh, it was called the Movement. The conference name was called the Movement, where they'll be discussing the road ahead for Asian football, and the sustainable development, commercial development of football in India. So a lot of these brands and club officials had come, and that time Alan Shearer was the chief guest, Newcastle United captain and legend. So I got a chance to take a photo with him during the conference, and the Premier League trophy for that season had actually come to Mumbai. So I got a chance to take a photo with the Premier League trophy, and the experience was really good. I got a chance to interact with. I don't know if you know Joe Morrison. Joe Morrison used to is the host of a lot of these talk shows in 10 sports when these Champions League matches used to take place. So I got a chance to interact with him. There are a few Indian origin players who had played in the Premier League, like Michael Chopra. So all these players, I got a chance to speak to them just as a casual discussion, and just it was good, like to understand from a elite player's point of view how life is, and they can't live away from journalists and social media and stuff. So it was interesting to hear their stories as well. how
That's
their
correct.
routine goes in mundane life. So
Yeah.
Uh, this is something I've been thinking about, right? So obviously we have a view about where the Indian football is, and there's a lot of people who are working for it. But how does the West, especially England, right, or the major football centers, how do they view India as a market, right? And what do they think? What do they see the future? I mean, from their perspective, right? What do they see the future of India as a football market, right? I
Or do
mean,
they see at all?
yeah, so from a Western point of view, they are more like India as a market is flourishing because of one prominent league, and there is still scope for professionalism. There is no proper structure where a player or a coach develops from the grassroots to the professional level. So, in terms of that, they are looking at the commercial aspect where they can actually create these tie-ups for giving technical expertise to clubs to run their grassroots coaching. So, just to give you an example, like uh, if you know, Borussia Dortmund is like a famous club in Germany. So they have tied up with Hyderabad FC to actually give coach education, to develop the quality of coaches. And apart from that, we have one more German club called Leipzig. So they are the technical partners of FC Goa. So they are actually looking after the grassroots level programs for children from the age of 12. So from a club standpoint, who have that experience and know-how of creating a strong developmental model for players, they are looking at associating with clubs in India, which are still not having a very strong grassroots system. So they find the opportunity over there, what they can penetrate. When it comes to football business, there are a few, like you can say, at least in my case, there is an education institute which has collaborated with us, so that they are giving the accreditation. So in from that perspective, again, they are looking at seeing the professionalism to grow in India, and there is a scope for that because once their expertise comes in, definitely the quality will be there, and they being there in this industry for 25-30 years, it is much more than what we as an industry are growing. So from a business point of view, they are also looking to see if these new leagues will give them good amount of return in future. If that happens, then definitely they'll be looking at penetrating this market. But as of now, what I have seen so far is just the club associations for developing quality at the local level.
If I was supposed to give you a hypothetical situation, right? If you were, say, the in charge of uh, getting the sport of football up and running in this country, and then what things that you would change, right? Uh, Given like something like that Nayak episode where Anil Kapoor is like the chief minister for a day, right? Suddenly you're put in charge. Like, what is something that you would change? Obviously, we know it's a long-term process, but then at least the key points in the process, right? What are some things that you would like to incorporate that probably say in some years' time that we could see the next Cristiano Ronaldo or next Messi coming out of India? So yeah.
Yeah, so that's something which is there in my horizon. I want to actually execute what I've been thinking for many years. And like, to be honest, the orientation itself for parents has to start at a higher level because parents are not at the local level. Usually the influence of education has been immense in India. The educational system has driven children to pursue careers which is, you know, away from sports, totally away from sports. Now it's just about recreation. But people, if you talk about, like, if I'm an in charge, I definitely create much more quality scouting programs, because we all know that only if we have more scouts at the local level, see people actually playing football, then we can, you know, create a proper pathway or recommend them to the higher level. So that would be the number one thing: prioritize the scouting operations in India at every local level, because again the culture aspect not only starts from hotbeds, but it has to be very widespread. And now we have seen some good improvements, but once the scouting is in place, again the orientation for parents need to change. It has to be not only for football, but I would say for sports in general. That is much more important for the Indian audience to consider that ठीक है, like your kid is good in some sport, then he has to be given that opportunity. If he is really talented, you can't undermine his potential and say that no, you are in 12th standard, and again create a different roadmap for him for his future. So you need to be acknowledging the fact that he is having that type of talent which needs to be utilized in the right way. So these will be the two major things which I would be doing. And the Indian market is not devoid of corruption at any stage. So I would say that the state associations or even the AIFF, the Football Federation in India, is not professional, I would say, because now they are actually in the mercy of the Reliance Foundation for the commercial aspect of the league. So they can't even make a financial decision. They are that powerless. Like in terms of expanding the number of teams, the ISL is charging 30 crores. That's the franchisee fee for any club to actually be a part of the ISL. So when that is the situation,
It's like
it's
30
all
crores annually.
30 crores is like yeah, they can pay over a period of time, but actually what I have heard is that that's the registration fee, because that
Oh.
fee will actually include the salaries of the players, then a budget for the transfers, and then you have your home ground as well, your home stadium. So the infrastructure and the facility cost and the training cost, all these put together, it is huge. So uh, that's the main reason a lot of these clubs are incurring losses, because ISL itself is charging huge amount of money for any franchise to actually come and participate. So the professionalism in this industry has to grow. You need to understand how much to allocate in which aspect of Indian football. And for me, if I were a decision maker, I would definitely, if I had the funds with me, I would definitely put at least 50 to 60% in grassroots development from an overall perspective, because that is the area where huge talent is still untapped. I'm sure, because I have seen players in my academy itself. They come from Tripura. There are players from Rajasthan. There are players from Maharashtra. All different types of qualities. They have a different type of physique as well. So when you talk of players, you always would say that okay, football is a very physical game, so you would want tall players who are very strong on the ball physically. But it's all about technique, and again you have the mind, the football brains. Basically, they call it the football brain. So a lot of aspects are there. I have seen good talent in all parts. Like I've seen people from Gujarat, other states also are doing well in terms of producing talent, but that talent is not given that pathway to progress. So the third aspect would be the pathway to for a player to develop from grassroots to go to the semi-professional level. He has to have a professional pathway through which he can actually go. In India, a player is very confused. Sir, after the tournament, what should I do? They always ask me, like many of them, like I have played this, I have played this, given this trials. If they don't take me, then what will happen? I'm still searching for a good academy. A lot of players lose hope in that aspect. So after a given point of time, they say that now my studies are coming, so probably I'll leave my football training and stuff. So I
I think, yeah, yeah, I think that's where, like you mentioned earlier, the whole aspect of parenting and educating the parents about showing them the path or helping their kid to show a path obviously, like first thing is like there has to be a path, and then only once the parents are able to kind of show their kids, help their kids see what, okay, so this tournament is ended, so then what? It's not like back to studies and this was just a side thing. So I think, yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, so that's what I have experienced. Like over the years, a lot of these players always keep contacting me because we happened to conduct some trials before lockdown. I was in Goa to conduct a trial for a set of players. So we had done very good branding for that trial and all marketing so that more younger players come in. So soon after the trials, we were actually trying to convince their parents that hey, listen, we have a good residential setup in like we have it in Madhya Pradesh. So we are actually trying to orient them in a way that we have the educational setup over there, fooding, lodging, accommodation, then the training and the transport aspect, everything will be taken care of. But lot of these parents were also like cross questioning, and again the lockdown was actually going to start, so they were a bit skeptic. So I would say that again soon after that, 6 months passed, and the same players are still asking me, sir, what happened this trial? I'm getting an opportunity to play here, but again they have shut shop and there is nothing doing in terms of football. I'm just trying to remain as fit as possible. That's the only statement they make because they know that they also are helpless during these lockdown times. So it is a very sad situation that after giving a trial also, many people are not able to, even if they get selected, players don't have that pathway. They are not seeing a progress that ठीक है, like academy scout is there, the scout will actually help you to progress to the next stage. So that is one big factor for Indian football, I would say. There are no qualified scouts at every level. uh, because I experienced in UK, always, like if you have a Sunday league match, there used to be a qualified scout who would come and create reports on players. They would evaluate their abilities on a very complete level, I would say, technically, tactically, and the mental side of the game as well. They would evaluate certain players and actually help them to go to the next level. That is not the case in India. We don't see qualified people who want to encourage talent. That's the only the coach's recommendation is there, and if a coach has a contact in a very good club, then okay, the player has a chance to secure a trial in a second division I league team, for example. So that is the usual scenario in India right now. Even the semi-professional clubs are not getting that much money or sponsorship to actually run them on a long term basis. So they just play the state league which is there in their own respective area. So that also has to change. The duration of leagues have to increase, because more the game time, again more the experience a player will get of improving his game. The number of matches certainly have to improve in every level. Even in the ISL, if we see, it's played for 3 months. Initially it was a 3-month league, and now it's roughly 5 months. So compared to the EPL, which is around 10 months long, it is still 50% less. So I would say again, the playing time of players at every level, match time, it's very important. So more number of matches, better it is for all the players again. I was saying the more number of matches, the better it is for the entire ecosystem. Like at every local level, also, if location A is having a tournament, location B, which is like 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers away from that location, will also get inspired or influenced in a way to at least start off a local tournament. Like that itself is missing. So only if an academy is willing to contribute and take that initiative to conduct a tournament, we see players encouraged, and it's like a inter academy tournament which happens at the local level. So the district association also doesn't take much initiative as it should, compared to a county in UK which will regularly evaluate the academies which are there in terms of what type of infrastructure they have, what type of coaching level they have, or what type of philosophy they are following in terms of playing style, and lot of things are evaluated. But in India, we don't see all those aspects, which are that shows that a structure is not there, like a football pyramid, which they call, that is still missing.
You touched upon this point, right, of COVID coming in, right? My main question is, COVID has come in. It's been more than 1 to 2 years, right? Close around 2 years. What has this whole obviously we know that by now with respect to India, in India specific topic with respect to football, right? How has this COVID shaken up the structure? The structure itself was weak. What has COVID done to the sport in terms of the structure, one, in terms of your marketing, and obviously you're in the education field. You were saying that a lot of, I mean, that's something that's gaining traction. So, what has COVID done to that, and then where do you see the things going on from now for the next 5 to 10 years?
So with respect to COVID, it was people who were actually running these academies at the local level. They took a big hit because the coaches, apart from on-field activity, they don't have a source of income because they are actually dependent on everything which happens on ground, and that actually affected even the players and the entire grassroots level, to be honest, because apart barring academy like Baichung Bhutia Football School, which created a digital app, uh, many of these other academies were completely closed, like they had suspended operations for around 8 to 10 months easily. And soon we saw some cases decreasing in some parts of India, and then we saw some elite academies actually, conducting training sessions for 10 to 12 players max at a given time. So slowly things opened up, but from a grassroots level point of view, it was completely flat for like initial that period of lockdown. And talking about like other aspects like education or trying to get that type of knowledge about the industry, uh, lot of I have seen lot of good sports aspirants who are willing to go abroad, get that exposure, but due to COVID, the travel restrictions again held them back. But during this time, the focus was, the trend in the market was such that they wanted to get an internship. So even getting an internship in a sports organization was not quite frequent, because everything became more digital. And with that, you can see that if you are not creative, or if you don't have the content writing skills, or if you are not a digital marketing oriented background, having that background, it is difficult for you to actually be a part of anything, because there are no sports events happening. Even the athletes who trained for the Olympics, they were in a bio bubble. That was something which the authorities had to take a very conservative proper decision on that, that the athletes are given all the facilities in spite of COVID. So again, like the trend which I saw in the market was that lot of aspirants were looking to get that education, but unfortunately they had to explore options of internships which were again scarce. So they were in a catch 22 kind of situation, like should I go for my education now, or should I try to get some experience even if it happens to be virtual. So I was actually like having some conversations on LinkedIn also, like people were asking me. I was also like curious to know what would be their viewpoint about this, and what would be their road ahead. So many of them was like telling that I'll just wait and watch, and they were like at home only like for 4 to 5 months they were not literally doing anything. It was a very sad situation for people losing jobs. Especially I touched upon the coaches who were trying to set up or trying to plan something for the future, because they are not the owners of the academies. Until and unless you are an owner, okay, you can say that owner as well as a coach, then you are in at a better level, because you can take that decision to suspend operations, and still you can find another project in place and say that we can provide you consultancy during this time or do any such activity. But it was difficult for almost all the professionals who are associated in terms of grassroots. So for me at least, because the company itself went digital, it was a very different experience. So we were also in a very like critical situation, because we had just finished our uh, academic session with the school, where we were having our physical literacy programs going on. And after that, even they told that we can't continue any activity because there is nothing physical going on. So we had to completely focus on this education aspect. And again, we got the university on board, which is giving the accreditation, and after that it has been smooth so far. But still a lot of things are there in the pipeline, so it's a different experience for different type of people. Like coaches are still looking out for opportunities. There are coaches who are now not having jobs for last 8 months to 10 months because there's no activity. So it's very uh, big effect on the entire industry, I would say.
I can totally imagine because the industry that I work in, or say Abhinandan works in, shifting to digital, like this also kind of seemed kind of difficult, but it was not a big deal actually. We have been working in from home for like past 1.5 years, but I can imagine that something like football, like where you're the activity itself is physical, like so there is no chance that like how much can you digitize. So a player can't like train virtually. So yeah, that must be like quite some hit. That hope things get better from here.
Online classes actually taking place. Like coaches who knew me, they actually were trying to take my help for getting in more players virtually for an online session. It might be tactical, talking about a particular game, or about talking about formations and stuff, which is completely into the tactical aspect, or just basic football related drills which any player can do at home. So
Wow.
I was actually part of these online football fitness classes. So I saw that things, if you are like charging, let's say, nominal price of 500 rupees per month for a kid, it can still work. You can at least run your basic day to day expenses if you get, say, 50
True.
kids. So I don't think like parents would also mind spending that much on a keeping their kids engaged on a basic fitness activity, because we all know that sitting at home, kids have a very different mindset, watching TV and running around and not actually concentrating much. They want to play, but they are restricted. So even in such a difficult situation, if coaches can come up with such solutions and again try to engage people, it's always good. So I was part of it, so it was a good experience for children. At least they got to learn a lot of things, and I hope people who are still looking for options, they can come up with such things. Because again, like, players are helpless, coaches can help in one way. So it's better that they take that step and engage them in a good way. So
Cool, cool. I think we're almost towards the fag end of this podcast. It has been so informational, and like I have learned so many things, and I came to know about so many things which I hadn't heard of in like so many years, and uh, especially the state of Indian football, and the lack of infrastructure, capital, marketing, and the corruption that itself. So it has been a huge eye opener for me also. I'm pretty sure. I'm speaking for Abhinandan as well here. So that has been amazing. So one final question that I wanted to ask, and even Abhi wanted to ask, that like what are your future plans in this field? What do you want to do? Like an HR interview. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, brother?
So my actual plan is my dream was actually to work at the elite level in football, because creating a pathway for myself is something it's not very professional for any executive like me who is working in the management side. But where I would like to see myself is working in some professional club. It can be in the operations, or it can be in handling social media or anything, so that I get that experience of how things work at the elite level, so that I understand what are the nuances which go, how different is it to work in a club compared to an academy. So I have so far been involved with grassroots academies mainly, but to take the level up, that would be my next goal. And apart from that, try to influence more and more people to join this industry, which is still at a very a small level, like nascent stage. So if I can create that positive environment in whichever way I can, I'll be really happy. Apart from you know looking at my personal goals, apart from that, this is something which I always plan to start an academy also in future, which would definitely be something which uplifts the local community. So with all things in place, hopefully with capital and stuff required for that, I'll be
Yeah,
looking forward to it. So
that's pretty amazing, dude. Abhi, you have anything more to ask?
No, I think just like to, I would say thank you because a lot of these things we don't know. What we see on TV is all that we know, right? And on TV, what we watch is a game, and at the end of the game, it's done. We switch on to the next channel, right? But this has been a true eye opener in terms of understanding a sport by itself, understanding the stakeholders, and how important culture is with respect to sport, the structure of sport, and I'm so happy that I've spoken to you and you have a chance to live the journey from the sport being a nascent stage to probably when you're older, right? The sport being at its peak, and then you would have lived through this journey, which is so exciting, right? Uh, True honor I mean, true honor that I've spoken to you, and then hopefully some years, some 50 or 40 years down the lane, we would be talking to a man who's managing the football at the highest level. So yeah, I mean, this conversation, when we look back, it would have been amazing because you would have understood where all the sport really progressed. So yeah, thanks a lot.
thanks.
Yeah.
From even from my side, it is always good to share my experience, because it's a new industry which lot of Indian population are still having doubts about. They are having inhibitions as to whether there is a structured career in this. So I'm happy to share as much of my experiences, so that people can still get influenced in some way or the other, even if they don't take up a career in this. At least if they derive something out of it, then obviously they can share whatever I shared with you also. Like, probably it will be good that way. And it was
Yes.
good for me
Yep.
also, like interacting with both of you. It was fun. Like, I expect to have many more conversations in the future
Yeah.
as well.
It's been a while actually since we caught up. We are mostly texting on Facebook or Instagram and all that. And then recently, I actually stumbled upon Ganesans' YouTube channel. He just started one. It's called Football Mania, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there, actually, he will be talking a lot of stuff about Indian football and football in general, and a lot of technical stuff. and also a lot of event related stuff. So football fans especially, like please go and subscribe to his channel. Link to his channel is in the description below, because we want more people, more sports fans to come out in the country, right? So I wouldn't just say that follow football certainly. Like the thing is, there has to be a certain passion for any sport, and every person should be passionate about like at least one sport. For example, when I look at Abhinandan, he's the guy who follows like Formula One like crazy, and he actually kind of induced me into it. And I follow Formula One like properly now. I read strategies and stuff like that, and I read a lot of articles about Formula One. And also, I've started, like obviously, like tennis, I've been following for like almost last 10 years, very religiously. So there is something about following a sport that's so passionate. Like I've seen football fans, I've seen basketball fans who are like, it becomes a part of your life. So I think India needs more fans. This is not just something that I'm saying from my own thing, not a gut feeling, but from what you have spoken so far, we need fans. We know we need those hardcore fans. When I saw those a bunch of Bangalore FC fans like a couple of years ago, I had this opportunity to attend one match. And it was so refreshing to see the whole stadium in blue, and I was like, wow! Like although the fans are like lesser in number, they are much more, religious and much more tied together than cricket fans. And I hope that number just multiplies, and a few torchbearers like, and it just takes one small spark to light up the fire, and I'm pretty sure multiple Ganesans are like kind of helping India improve in football and pave the future to a World Cup in maybe next 40-50 years or whenever possible.
Definitely, I
So
think the plan itself is that, like, 2034 World Cup is what like people who work in football are anticipating, that India will make it to their first World Cup. So I think still what, 13 years, 14 years, but it easily, from my eyes, from my point of view, definitely playing a World Cup would be the like the final goal. But there are a lot of goals which India has to achieve. Be the best in Asia first, then we can talk about going to the World Cup. So there are a lot of short-term targets which Indian football has to achieve. So let's hope that we can build towards that. And I'm really honored and once again thankful to Abhinav for the invite, and it was great to catch up with Abhinandan as well. To we haven't spoken much, but I've like seen you in the institute, and I since the podcast started, I was following this right through, and I expect to have many more conversations.
awesome! It's a pleasure to having you here. So thank you so much. And viewers and listeners, if you enjoyed this particular episode of the Right Now Show, just like Abhinandan and I did, don't forget to subscribe. Also subscribe to Ganesans channel. And we have also started the Right Now Shorts, which are the bite-sized version of our videos. So all those videos will be available to you on Abhinandan's channel. So please go and check it out and enjoy the content. Thank you so much once more. Logging off. Bye.